Content warning. Some episodes may include strong language or sensitive topics, including trauma or assault. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, this is Carrie Jo, and this is my podcast, Holy Chuckles, where we tell real stories, witness raw faith, and experience holy laughter. Thanks so much for joining us. Me. When I say us, it's because I have a small little team that helps me for no money. So I say us to include them, to make myself feel better. This last episode, we're talking about my divorce because Nisha and we had to get a divorce. But I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is when we talk about God, I want to say this. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about God. I'm talking about Jesus. When I talk about the Bible, I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about the Bible. I know there are a lot of people with the Bible that it's black and white. It's what it says. You have to follow it word for word. I'm sorry. That's why the disciples, when they go back and you read the stories, the disciples have a different take on things because we have different perspectives. In my last episode, I told you the 2 commandments Jesus said. 1, love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. 2, love your neighbor, just as Christ loved us. Those are his 2 commandments. The Bible is full of great stories. It's also full of verses and stories and words that help you get through your trials and tribulations. When I'm sad, when I'm anxious, when I'm upset, when I'm hungry, because I'm going through a fast right now, I pick up the Bible to help me get through it. You know what? It's like calling a friend and saying, man, I'm having this problem. Can you help me? This is what I'm going through. So instead of calling a friend and burdening someone else with my issues, I go right to this book, look up some verses, talk to God. And then that way, God tells me what I need to know, right? I want to make that clear. Now, I want to talk about the gay issue. Ruh-roh. It was gonna come up at some time. But you are not my judge and jury. What you say does not go. What I say does not go. What God says goes, right? And I just told you what Jesus said. The 2 commandments, love thy God and love thy neighbor. It's not your business who I am married to. It's not my business who you are married to. It's not my business what you wear. It's not your business what I wear. You know, there are a lot of things that people get into that do not pertain to them. Who I have a relationship with, my sexuality, someone else's sexuality, someone unsure of their sexuality, you know, someone who is going through a transformation, however they feel fit to live their life is none of your business. And we're also told in this book not to judge. And every time you open your mouth to say, but it says you shouldn't do that, it also says you shouldn't do what you're just now doing. So stop it. Okay? I'm going to pull up this verse again, and I pulled up this verse in the last episode, and it's Matthew 22:37-39. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? If you don't want someone else getting into your business, don't get into other people's business. No matter how righteous you think you are, no matter what your job is, let people learn and transform in the way that they need to, guided by God. So, now that we're into that, I want to, since we're on the gay thing, let's talk about it for a minute. I want to tell you a little story. And this is why I think I'm so passionate about it, because people who claim to be Christians, people who are religious, they tend to take that further than what it needs to go. If you're a Christian, right, then you've read this Bible, you know what it says. If you're a Christian, more than likely you have been into church, right? Church. Well, if you listen to episode 3, we all know that's where I was sexually abused at. So church is not my favorite place to be, but also it's not even about the sexual abuse. It's about the hypocrisy, right? You got a bunch of hypocrites just running around throwing out verses and whatnots and telling people what they should and shouldn't be, can and can't be, and how God does or does not love them. Well, what you're saying is a lie. What you're saying is untrue. Stop spreading those lies. Stop being unkind. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I had a friend, and this was a friend that we were close at that time. She was going to a church, and she had been going to this church for a little bit. Tithing, worshiping. And she decided, you know what? I'm feeling good about this church. Maybe I should make this church my church home. And she went in to make the church her church home. And they said, boop, 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 boop. Wait a minute. Hold up. No, you can't do that. We know you are gay. And until you repent, you cannot be a member of this church. And they gave her this handout, and it was like all these things about homosexuality. But you took her money. When she tithed, the church took her money. Guess that's not gay money. Guess that's just money, right? Whenever the basket or however it was came around, she took out her dollars. She went to put them in it, right? The deacon, the minister, the usher, whatever you want to call it, didn't go, oh, no. We can't take your money. Can't take your money. We can't take your money because that's gay money. And gay money's a sin money, right? So no, thank you. They didn't tell her to put it back in her pocket. She put it in the plate, put it in the little offering bag. Because see, money's money. But she wasn't worthy enough to be a member of that church. Nah, it's not come as you are. It's come as we think you should be. But yet, they stood up on that pulpit and preached this word. And Jesus, his favorite people to hang out with were those that were thieves, liars, tax collectors, whores. Man, Jesus wanted them all, right? But you said, no. You can't come here and worship and be a member to our club because you're not like us. That's sad. And that is what's wrong with church today. And you can keep it. You can keep those worship centers that are so large. and huge that you pour money into, even gay money. Even gay money. You pour that money into them. You got people living on streets. You got people without homes. I mean, you listen to episode 2 all day long. I was with homeless people. You got big auditoriums. They could sleep on pews. They would be happy to sleep on pews. But we don't do that. We don't want that. That's sad to me. That's really sad to me. So I'm going to go ahead and keep my gay money in my pocket and do my own type of ministering, my own type of helping my community. And I'm going to quit giving to churches who don't believe, come as you are. Because what did God say? We're all sinners. We sin every day. Every one of us. We do things we shouldn't do every single day. Even the smallest thing, which is I had an extra Coke today and I shouldn't have. That's gluttony. And we all do it. But we want to judge. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read Matthew 23:13. Here we go. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. When you didn't let this person become a member, you shut the door on her faith. When you didn't let this person become a member to worship in the house of God, you shut the door in her face. When you didn't let this member, when you didn't let her become a member, you didn't follow what this book that you stand up in the front of the church and read. You didn't follow it. And it says here, when you don't let other people enter who are trying to, you can't enter. What are we doing? You want people to change. You stand up there and yell about, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't be this, you shouldn't be that. But then when people want to come worship in the house of the Lord and hear the message, and they start getting moved in their faith, then you say, nope, not unless you do this, this, and this. Come as you are in this moment, at this time, right here with all your sin, all your yuck, all your bleh. Just come in and worship and see what God can do for you. Right? Because God's doing something for everybody in their life, in their season, where they're at. It may not be where you're at, and that's okay, but you're a teacher. You're a teacher. Stop criticizing and start teaching. Kindness, love, acceptance for exactly where someone is at that time in their life. And off my soapbox. I'm also going to read Galatians 3:28. There is neither a Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Let me go ahead and read it louder for those of you in the back. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. That seems pretty easy to understand, right? Doesn't matter who you are, what you're going through, what you wear, what you think you are, who you think you are. It doesn't matter anything. We are all one in Christ Jesus. That's what it says, black and white. No one is better. No one is more important. Nothing that you have, nothing that you do, nothing that you are, your skin color, your hair color, your eye color, your sexuality. I can go on and on and on. Republican, Democrat, liberal, I don't care. It says you are all one in Christ Jesus. Done. See ya. Have a nice day. No one's better than the other. I don't know what we're doing when we're so unkind to one another. I don't understand it. Now that we have that out of the way, I can go ahead and move on to my relationship and divorce status. I just wanted to take care of the elephant that seems to stay in a room when people don't mind their own business and let other people be. When churches don't accept you for who you are in the sentence of come as you are. If you don't want to follow that, don't say it. Be very clear what you want in your churches so everyone understands if they should show up or not. But if you say come as you are, mean it. Say what you mean. All right. Nisha and I were not speaking the same language. Really, we weren't speaking any language. We were speaking confusion in our relationship when we separated. We were each in our own energies. We were doing our own things. We were learning to fall in love with ourselves again, individually, ourselves and God. Of course, when you're not the same person, things are going to be different. Before, we were drinking, we were partying, we were running amok. We were doing all kinds of shenanigans, right? Since she was brave enough to ask for the separation, we both realized what was going on. We both realized the differences in what our relationship was, where it was at, what we were doing, what our relationship was doing. But someone had to step forward and be like, I think we should go ahead and just go for the divorce. We still didn't have that lingering in the back. While I still am with this person, I still have to also think about them when I'm making decisions, when I'm doing these things. So I asked for a divorce. I said, you know what? I think you're right. I think we need to move forward with this divorce and do what we're being called to do. Our marriage was based on brokenness, trauma, fear, our wounds. It was based on a lot of things that we were not in now. We were not part of now. We were healing those things. Of course, it's going to be different. We were both codependent for different reasons. My codependency was I had to serve someone to feel worthiness. And for her, she had been abused, I'm going to say, for all of her life. Honestly, between parents, partners, and everything else, she was happy to let someone serve. She was happy to give it all to me so she could have a break, a rest. she had never been able to uncoil anything. And here I'm saying, let me do it. Let me do it. Let me do it. I got it. I'll cook. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. Right? Because I got to find my worthiness in someone. Right? My other relationship ended. That ended because of unworthiness. You know, I said, let me take it all for you. And you know what? This time in her life, she believed the person standing across from her saying, let me take it all for you. And I promise I won't hurt you. She believed that. And it was true, because there's no way I would have hurt her. No way. And it worked for a while. That worked for a while, just constantly running and doing everything. And she got the rest that she needed to have a clear mind. Now we're going into this spiritual healing. We are healing. We are praying. We are learning things about ourselves. I'm feeling good. She's feeling good, right? We're in our own spaces. We're in our own energies. I had this real bad habit of taking off my socks everywhere I am. And there would be socks everywhere, because I won't go put back on those socks. No, I will go get another pair. Now I've got 6 and 7 pairs of socks. And she's like, oh my God, why? Why do you have so many socks laying around? And then here's me. Why do you care? Why does it matter? And she's like, because it's my space too. And I don't like it. Now we're in our own spaces. I can have socks on, socks on, socks on, socks on, socks everywhere in my apartment. And she can have no socks in hers. Everything's fantastic, right? And I am working on filling out the paperwork for this divorce. Look, we've been through this. I didn't have a job for a while. We've had 22 moves. You know, during this time, somewhere in the midst of all of this, Nisha has lost her job. We're both not working. I mean, I'm working, but she's not working. And, you know, it's just, I'm not paying a lawyer. Okay. Because we're not fighting. We're not arguing. We have nothing to separate besides cats. And each one of us have one that they prefer. And we also live down the hall from each other. We can just visit cats anytime. Come on. So I was like, I'll fill out the paperwork, you know, ChatGPT. So no big deal. We're not separating anything. We're not arguing. It's not horrible at all. Like, we still are very much kind and loving to one another, because we're divorcing because really God led us there. And then people say, God says, don't divorce. I mean, what does he say? Don't divorce or don't be gay. Pick one. You know, you gotta pick one. Anyway, God told us to divorce. He may not say that to anyone else. You may not believe that he said it, whatever it may be. God led us to divorce. So, we were struggling to find a balance. I'm filling out the paperwork. You know, we're used to being in each other's presence every single day, every single minute of every single day. I mean, for a while, we worked in the same room together. So we're struggling to find a balance. During this time, my foot surgery, the supervisor came up here because he knows this is a touchy subject for me, and he can feel my energy. So little tiny Tot has made his presence known. So during this time, my foot surgery is great. My ankle is still giving me a little bit of an issue, and it's just because of the items they had to put in there, because I'm a big person. So, there you go, buddy. So I'm a big person. So they had to make sure that my ankle was secure with the ankle replacement. So there's one item that keeps rubbing on the inside. My doctor was like, no problem. We'll just take it out. No big deal. You'll be good to go. Like, everything looks great. You'll be good to go. I had to have this surgery, and paperwork filled out, paperwork for the divorce turned in, and they gave me a date for the divorce. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like June 30th. And that is the only day my doctor could do this surgery. So I'm booking the surgery because This thing inside is irritating me. I'm booking the surgery. So I booked the surgery and I called Nisha and I said, don't be mad, but I think we're going to have to postpone the divorce because I need to have this surgery. And I was wanting to get it done to feel better. She's like, yeah, no problem. A couple more weeks, no big deal. Like, we're just following what God tells us to do. So it's not like it's detrimental. So I go and have the surgery. And during this time, Nisha is going through her spiritual battle, right? Literally spiritual warfare. She couldn't even take me to get my surgery. And this is so unusual because Nisha, the past 7-8 years, has taken me to every appointment. All these things has been such a part, but she can't. She literally can't. And thank God someone else in my life was so gracious and loving and was there to take me. But I realized I'm so sad. Nisha's not here to take me, even though this other person is my other best friend and she's fantastic. But we had made that codependent bond. And that is what God was trying to break. That codependency, that you can't do things without one another, or you depend on each other for everything, literally everything. And nothing else in this world matters. You can't live your life that way. You cannot live your life that way. And so God was really trying to break this, codependency. But during that time, then we question, oh my gosh, because this happened, are we doing the right thing? Should we be divorcing? So we had to both go to our separate corners and pray and figure out, is this what we're supposed to be doing? Because God, all we want to do is honor you. We want to do what you want us to do. So we went ahead and went through with the divorce. Now, you might ask yourself, how did you guys know it was the right thing to do? I'm going to tell you, because our divorce day was something special. I don't think you'll hear very many people say our divorce day was something special, but I'm telling you, our divorce day was special. I was in a boot, so I didn't want to drive. I could take my foot out of the boot and drive if I needed to, but it was raining. I didn't want to drive. Nisha doesn't drive in Dallas. So we said, let's Uber. So we Ubered over to Dallas, went into the courthouse, and all these people were lining up outside, right? And they had the dockets, a list. And I'm like, yes, we are first. Thank goodness our last names are where they are so we could be first. And I figured in and out, right? Had my paperwork with me. Not only had my paperwork, made like 4 copies, right? Because I'm prepared. My Virgo was shining. I was like, we're ready. So we sit down in the courtroom. Judge comes out. Okay. And she called us up there, right? And I wasn't prepared for this. She called us up there and she was very, I don't want to use the word aggressive because it wasn't aggressive. It was assertive. She was very assertive and handed her the paperwork. She's looking through it. She's like, you don't have any kids? I mean, yeah, but they're adults, so they're not part of this. She's like, well, you use the wrong forms. And I'm like, oh, man. And she's like, so you have 2 options, really. You can go redo it downstairs at the law library, or you can come back. What do you want to do? And we're like, oh God, we have to make this decision right here, right now. Okay, cool. We looked at each other and, we're like, okay, well, let's just go down to the law library and do it. She's like, they'll be able to help you. Like, just very matter of fact, right? I mean, and we're here, like, we're getting a divorce. Like, don't be mean to us, right? Because we're in our emotions. Stop being mean to me. So we go downstairs to the law library and we get the right paperwork. And then we go to the little cafeteria because I need coffee and we haven't had coffee. And if I'm going to have to fill out paperwork, God, I need to get some caffeine in my system. So we sit down, we get our coffee, and then Nisha starts crying. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, is this a sign that we should not do this. Like, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just walk out and be like, no. And I'm like, no. This is what we're both called to do. We both said it. We both prayed about it. We've both been called to do it. So no. And I repeated to her the story about when Jesus was saying you had to die, basically. And Simon was like, we're not going to let anyone touch you. We're going to stand in front of you and no one's going to touch you. And Jesus had to say, get behind me, Satan. He wasn't calling Simon Satan, but he was calling the act of being defiant when God has told you that you must do something. And I'm like, so this is what we're doing. We have both been told, we know it, we feel it, we're ready, we're doing it. And so from there, Anisha is, I swear, a natural born auditor. Okay. So I filled out the paperwork and here's me. I'm not going to read the instructions. I'm just going to fill it out with the boxes and move forward. Obviously, it's a problem because that's why we're down in the cafeteria and had to visit the law library again because I don't read directions. She said, okay, you're going to fill it out. I'm going to read the directions and you fill out each page and then I'm going to read it again to make sure we did it right. There were a couple of things that I did wrong yet again. So had she not audited me, we would have been back in that cafeteria yet again. So we worked together, which these last couple of months, because we were speaking two different languages, we weren't working together. But as soon as we made the decision and said, no, we're moving forward, all of a sudden we were speaking the same language again. And we worked together like we'd always had for this common task that God has said we had to do. So we get back into the courtroom with our paperwork in hand, and we have to sit there. And let me tell you what I don't understand. When you're getting a divorce, everyone is in the courtroom with you. They hear all your trauma. They hear all the yuck in your relationship. They hear all the questions. Not only that, then they throw your financial crap up on a big screen for everybody to see. Why do they do this like this? It's like humiliation. It's like, okay, our marriage didn't work out, but why do we have to go through this now in public? It's like a public hanging. It's like the witches being burned. Like, what are we doing, legal system? Why do you feel, one, this is necessary, and two, why do you have to put your failure, whatever the reason it may be, out for everyone to judge and see? We all know we're judgy people. We're judgy. We're just, ugh, right? Why do we do this? And so every single person literally was demeaned in that courtroom. Whether they were in the wrong or in the right, it was still demeaning because it was their personal business out for everyone to see. That's sad to me. But we were sitting there and listening to all these stories, and I was feeling gross and sad and upset. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, God, please let us be next. I know we didn't do our paperwork right. And I know all these people are waiting too, but please, God, just let her call us so we can get out of here. So the people that were up there finished, and she looked at there. I will tell you, probably every one of us in that courtroom had to go downstairs and redo our paperwork. So, and that in itself is dumb. If everyone else has to redo the paperwork, there's something wrong with the paperwork. So, she looked our way and she said, I'm going to do this next case and then I'll be back with the beginning people who had to go redo their paperwork. And I'm like, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, God. So we go up there, right? It's our turn. She calls our names. We go up there. And I was not looking forward to this because, quite frankly, she was not nice the first time. And it was not pleasant the first time. And I can understand. I gave her grace because if you had to listen to all these stories all day, every day, why would you want to? Like, ugh. I don't know. It's got to take a special person to listen to that stuff, right? So I was giving her grace and saying, you know what? I couldn't imagine having to sit here all day for 8 hours, 10 hours a day and listen to this either. So we get up there and I'm expecting like this nasty attitude, this attitude period, the assertiveness that has now turned to irritation because all of our paperwork, for some reason, I mean, I know what the reason was, but for some reason, her attitude completely different, 180. She was compassionate. She was loving. She was kind. And she handled us with kid gloves. She looked at the paperwork and said, looks like you guys did everything right. And she talked about some things because of our situation, you know, Nisha not working, me starting a new job, we had turned in a financial aid to have the fee waived. And when we first, you know, when we were going down to the court library, I said, well, what about the waiver? And she's like, you know, we'll just deal with that when you come back. It was very matter of fact. And we were both like, oh, crap, we're going to have to come up with this money because they're going to make us pay. Right. And, so she's like, she asked us the questions, you know, and the questions are like, what's your name? What are you here for? And then do you agree that this is what you want to do? You want to get a divorce, and you have to answer those questions in front of everybody. And both of us said our thing and said yes. And, you know, Anisha's having to get Kleenexes because she's crying, and the judge is just taking her time with us and being careful. And so we said everything. And I said to the judge, I said, what about the financial hardship? And she said, you know what? We're going to leave it just as it is. I fully believe that after seeing all those cases and those nasty words that were being said, and the things that people were saying about each other, and the meanness that was happening to people when you love them at some point. Some of them had children together. And then they were going in and saying these degrading, hurtful things about one another. Right? And I get it. I get it. Someone's going to say, well, you know, I'm sure, you know, this woman didn't like being beaten. Yeah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you get into a relationship and you love each other, and then whatever shifts, instead of just walking away, then when the shift happens, you stay in it and you abuse one another and you act unkind and gross, right? And I would like to say in both of my relationships, I didn't do that. We didn't do that. I'm not saying they were both perfect, but at least we weren't mean. And I fully believe what that judge saw that day was God. She saw God in each of us. She saw the kindness. She saw the love. She saw the respect that we had for one another. Because this wasn't being done because we didn't want to be with one another. This is being done because God said we had to. We had to. And I fully believe that is why her attitude, her demeanor changed. Because each of us, we held arm in arm and went up there together. We got married together. Nisha she's over and over, we're doing this in love. We got married together. We're going to get divorced together. We are going to walk on arm in arm down that aisle to get married. We're going to walk arm in arm down that aisle to get divorced. That is how we're handling this, with grace and love. So, divorce done. And man, we did not feel good. We did not feel good. So, had to get an Uber, right? Caught an Uber, and Nisha came around to my side to get in because it's in downtown Dallas, so it's busy. And when I opened the door, the lady said, "Yellow." I said, "What did you just say?" And she's like, "I don't know why I said that." She was a lady. She was a Nigerian lady, had a heavy accent. And she's like, "I have never said that in my life. Why did I just say that?" And we got in the car and I said, and in her SUV on the rear view mirror, she had a cross and her prayer beads. And I want to say this because I forgot to mention it. On our way there, the first Uber, the gentleman that took us, he had his prayer beads in his hand. And the whole way there, he was praying with his prayer beads. I just found that interesting that we were in vehicles where the presence of God was, right? So she was like, "I have no idea why I said that. I've never said that in my life. Why would I say that?" And I said, "I'm going to stop you right now." And I said, "I know why you said it." She's like, "Why?" And I said, "Because we just got a divorce today." And she's like, "I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "But we wondered, are we doing the right thing?" And see, God sends you signs, breadcrumbs, right? Little nuggets of wisdom, if you will, to let you know everything's okay. So when she said yellow, and I was so surprised, I said, "I'll tell you why. My dad used to answer the phone, 'Yellow.' And I used to make fun of him. And I mean, not just make fun of him. I would hardcore razz him to the point where I started as a kid picking up the phone just to make fun of him. 'Yellow.' And at that moment, I knew the presence of my father, my earth daddy, if you will, was letting me know that I was following the instructions from my father. You know what I mean? If that ain't a message. And right then, all sadness left both of us. We knew we were following the instructions correctly. We were being obedient to what God was telling us to do for whatever God's reason was, whether we understood it or not. So I looked at Nisha and I said, "Celebration dinner?" And she's like, "Yes, celebration dinner." So we made reservations, got dressed up, met outside, got a good Uber, right? One of them fancy Uber Blacks, you know what I mean? And we got in the Uber and went out to a restaurant and got to the restaurant, sat down. And, you know, when you make your reservation, they say, "What is this for?" And we said, "A celebration." Right? And so we sat down and our waiter came and he said, "So what are we celebrating?" And we said, "A divorce." And he's like, "Oh man, which one of you got divorced?" And we're like, "Both of us." And he's like, "Wow." And I'm like, "No, we got divorced from each other." And he's like, "Wait, and you're out to dinner together?" Yeah. Because we did it in love. And it's a celebration. You know why it was a celebration? Because one, we did it in love, kindness, and grace. Two, it was a celebration because we were obedient We were obedient. So we had a lot to celebrate. And we were going to make sure to do that. I'm not saying that sometimes in our relationship, because we were best friends, then we were partners. Now we're back to being best friends. I'm not saying it's not difficult. It's not difficult to not cross those lines with, Nisha will call me a pet name and I answer to it. So, we spend a lot of time together. God didn't say, I'm taking you away from each other. He said, I need you to do this, right? Sometimes we argue because we find ourselves being in each other's business where we shouldn't be, because that's where we were when we were married. So how we handle this today is prayer, patience, and grace. Because we didn't get a rule book. No one came and handed us a book on life, right? So we're doing the best we can with what we have. And we're handling it with prayer, patience, and grace. So, divorced, living my life as a divorced person, right? And God had started to call it on my heart that now I was going to have to leave my job. I'm sorry. What, God? No, thank you. I'm good. Appreciate you. I've been out of work for a while. Don't have any savings. No, I'm good. I did my divorce. Got you on the divorce, right? God said, no. He said, you're going to do it. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do this. And I struggled. I argued. I was not going to quit my job. How was I going to pay my bills? So, then, at work, I was struggling to concentrate. I was struggling to get work done. I am a person that can remember everything. Let's go back to 2010. I know everything from there. Someone could come to me and ask me what happened in my first job that I was there for 20 years. They could say, what happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and I would be able to replay the account with no problem. My memory, I couldn't remember stuff. I couldn't sit still. I was emotional. I was having all of these issues. I started questioning my work ethic, and I was a person that was a workhorse. I would work and 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 still work. But now I'm questioning this. And so all these things are happening and I'm not understanding it. And then this podcast idea keeps coming up to the forefront, right? And I'm asking, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? Who's going to listen? What are we going to call it? Right. And so I was going through my relationship with God, talking about these things. Right. And I went through several names. And then one day God was like, Holy Chuckles. I said, what? Like literally, I was like, what? Tell me again. Holy Chuckles. I called Nisha and I'm like, Holy Chuckles. We died laughing. Perfect. Right. Then, I started rolling with that. Okay. Holy Chuckles. I think that sounds good. I started getting excited. Right. And then I was like, well, how am I going to do the logo? What are we going to talk about? Well, my ex, the other long-term relationship I had, Jareth and I, we started hanging out again because she was also my best friend. And when we were together, she was my best friend and I loved her so much and we got along so well. And then her and Nisha started being best friends. And I was like, this is so awesome. So I called her and was like, yo, listen, God told me the name. And she's like, what is it? And I told her, and she's like, that's fantastic. And I said, but I need a logo. So please come help me. She's an artist. And not only is she an artist, but she's so intuitive, right? And when I can't get my words to come out of my head like they should, I just talk like, she's like, oh, you want that? And I'm like, yeah. How did you know that? Well, I understood half your words. So she came over one weekend and we sat here and literally she drew it out after telling her some things and after her thinking, and then she would draw it. We made copies of it and I would color it with a highlighter. And then I would like, don't like that color. And then we kept going and going and going until we came up with Chuckles. And we were so happy with it. And now I'm excited, right? But I'm really not sure. God, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to say? What am I going to do? Sorry, I got to pick up the little baby. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? How are we going to do this? Like, it's just going to talk about me and God all day? Like, what's happening? And then things started to make sense. Because things were happening and God was putting people in my life. He was telling me to talk to people and I'd be like, I'm not talking to them. And he would like, go talk to them. I'm like, I'm not doing it. And then the ideas started coming and the people started coming. And that's how Holy Chuckles came about. And so now we're really telling stories. And then he's like, but hold on. We got a couple of things you have to understand. I'm like, oh, God. And he's like, you got to tell your story. No, God. No. We said, I get to help people tell their stories. That was our deal. I don't tell my story. I get to help people tell their stories. Because God gave me this gift of gab. Not only did he give this gift of gab, he gave me the ability to connect with people and make people feel comfortable. And I'm like, that's what you said we could do. That's what you said we were going to do. And he's like, no. You got to tell your story too. Because how do you help people through their story if you don't tell yours? Blech. I hate when people make common sense. They make sense. I hate it. God was making sense and I was not wanting to pick up what he was putting down. But I knew I had to do it. So, the issues leading up to my resignation, guilt. I've only been there a year. Fear of finances, security. I was uncomfortable in every single way you could be uncomfortable, right? I've always made good money. I've always had a great job. I was so uncomfortable. And I'm like, God, really, do we have to do this? And the day of, I know Sunday, I had talked to a couple of people and said, you know what? I think I'm going to give my resignation and I'm going to be obedient. And at this time, Nisha was really going through spiritual warfare. And I mean heavy. She hadn't slept for days. I hadn't realized how many days until, she told me it had been around 6 days she hadn't slept. And so, she came over that Sunday. I said something about resignation. I had talked to Jareth. I had some other people. And they're like, there's a lot going on right now for you. Maybe you should just hold off. Maybe this is God's way of saying you're not ready. And that Sunday, it pulled me away from my obedience and I didn't do it. That whole Monday, I didn't do it. I stayed at home, was really in my feels about it. And I'm like, God, are you sure? Because I'm getting so much pushback. I'm not really sure. And this is why having people in your business is what you shouldn't do, right? Because I was full and ready to be obedient, but the fear, and we all have this fear, and then people project their fear on you because, oh my God, I can't believe you're going to do this, right? So Monday night, I made a decision, didn't care. When I got up to go to work on Tuesday and I was working from home because I'd had that surgery, and I was like, I don't care. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I feel it in my gut. I feel it in my heart. I feel it with everything that is within me. So I'm going to do it. I don't care. So Nisha was here, and I said, okay, I'm doing it. And I wrote out my resignation letter, right? And I said it. I was honest. I said, I've been through 4 moves, a separation, now a divorce. I'm not giving you guys what I could give you. I don't know what else to do. And quite frankly, God is telling me to do this, and I'm just being obedient. And I gave them 4 weeks, right? Because I felt that's what was appropriate. And I was like, send. It was like 9:30 in the morning. I had a meeting at 10 a.m. via Teams, and I'd been having issues back and forth with this one particular company. I didn't know if they were going to have their stuff ready for the meeting, and for our meeting, we had to have other people on it, and there was no reason if they weren't going to be able to do what they needed to do for us to even have the meeting. For the life of me, she couldn't get her emails to get to me. There was no emails were coming through. I was getting frustrated. She was getting frustrated. We entered a third party that I thought maybe would be getting some of my emails. And it was about 10 minutes until our meeting time. And I was like, are we doing this? Do you have the information? And at like 9:57, she emails, no, I'm not ready. I emailed back immediately, we are canceling the meeting. Okay, I'm good. All right. We're canceling the meeting. And that was at 2 minutes until 10. And I sent an email to all the people that were supposed to be on the meeting, canceling it. And at 10 a.m., when I was supposed to have this Teams meeting with all of these people on it, all hell broke loose. Nisha having no sleep for 6 days, Nisha going through spiritual warfare, all hell broke loose as soon as I sent that email and we were done, and it was 10 a.m. She went into full-fledged, I'm going to call it, I want to be careful with my words, right? Because I've learned through this process that people use words that are inaccurate. And what it does is put a stigma. But no sleep for 6 days, not understanding everything that's been going on, and spiritual warfare, and learning, understanding, realizing all the trauma that you have suppressed inside your body, inside your mind, that puts a person where they cannot function what we, society, wants to call normal. And man, I'm also going to say this. This is also why you should stop watching horror movies, because I had seen so many horror movies about like exorcisms and stuff like that. And when I say I believe evil things happen that people don't really understand, I saw it. I witnessed it. I was there. It happened right at 10 a.m. when I was supposed to have that meeting. I fully believe that was supposed to keep me from giving my resignation yet again, because when you find your purpose, when God gives you your purpose, when you realize your way back to God, when you remember the reason that God has you here, there will be forces, entities, whatever you want to call them, that will come after you to try to make you stop telling your truth, to try to make you not talk about the truth of God. And I fully believe that's what happened that day, not only for me, but for Nisha, because we were both on this spiritual journey. So we went through everything that day, and it was not pretty, even from calling, medical care in, because I was unsure of what was happening. I have never asked for prayers. I have never said, please pray for me. I had someone that I worked with. She usually sends me a message on Teams. Weird. This day, she didn't. She sent me a message via text. I was still supposed to be working. Nobody knew this was going on. She didn't send me a message via Teams. She sent me a message via text and said, "How are you today?" I didn't respond. I called. I went out in the hallway and I called. And I was in full panic, full crying, a meltdown. I don't know what the hell is going on. And I said, please gather everyone that you know prays. Please pray. Pray for Nisha. Pray for me. I don't know what the hell is going on here. I can't say what's going on because I don't know. But whatever you do, have everyone pray. And I said, and also, please tell David I can't work today. I'm dealing with this shit. Right? I picked up the phone and called everyone I knew. Everyone. Right? Please pray, please pray, please pray, please pray. And I know for a fact, and when Nisha it comes to tell her story, she will concur. I know for a fact that day, all those prayers, everything that went on that day saved her life. I know that. I know that. Because we didn't just call everyone. There were prayer warriors that were praying. Prayer warriors. And when the first time you asked for people to pray for you, God didn't even give me a chance to think about it. You know what he did? He showed me when I don't obey. When I don't obey what I know is right and what I know I should be doing, that it could affect other people. And so at that moment, I didn't think about what would this person think about me. When I picked up this phone in panics, and let me tell you, everybody was at their jobs. They were doing the things that they needed to do, but I didn't care. When I called and reached out and said, I need this. I need this. I need you. Because remember, I'm a fixer. I'm a person that doesn't ask for help. God showed me what asking for help does. God showed me what obeying does. It saves lives. It saved my best friend's life. That's what that did. And so I put down my pride. I put down my ego. I put down my, they're going to think I'm weird. Well, shit, they probably already thought I was weird. And I did what had to be done. I asked for help. Woo. So I gave my 4 weeks notice. We made it through that day and the days afterwards. Now I'm going to work. I'm physically going to work. They hadn't seen me for a while because I had been at home working from home because of these surgeries, right? And I'm having great days at work. I'm loving seeing everyone. I'm talking to everyone. My last day of work comes, right? And I take all my stuff, right? Take all my stuff in because I'm turning it in. Last day of work. I woke up that morning and I had a little bit of fear come through, right? Because my security is my job. And so I have a little bit of fear and I'm like, hey, God, if I understood this wrong, if I heard this wrong, if I'm not going in the right way, you can let me know. I'm sure I can walk in to the office and be like, yo, made a mistake. I'm a dork. Right. But I was having fear. So I ride a little electric scooter to work, got all my stuff in my backpack, and I go in, say hello to everyone. I have a meeting at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m., I have a meeting via Teams. Okay. I go in and I'm getting ready for my meeting and I'm sitting down at my desk and I said, God, listen, why am I here all day? And I want to say this, I gave a 4-week resignation and they kept me till the very last day. Why? But I was grateful. It was two things. One, I thought, oh, they really like me. And two, I was like, oh God, we really need to get this work done. So they kept me until the very last day. And I'm sitting there at my desk and I'm like, God, listen, I've been obedient. I've been obedient every step of the way, even in fear of how am I going to pay my bills? You know, am I going to be hanging out with David on the streets? You know what I mean? How am I going to do this? And I've been obedient. I've been faithful. I have followed the breadcrumbs they have been given to me. So I said, listen, God, can I get a little something, something? Right? I said, please don't make me stay all day. What am I going to do after my meeting at 10 a.m.? What am I going to do? I'm going to go around and bother everyone. I'm going to get a U and an N in conduct for talks too much. Because I'm going to go around and bother everyone in this building until my 8 hours is up. So please, God, let me just go early today. I went down to the break room to get coffee. And there is this young woman there that's so fantastic. And she has a verse all the time. She has a verse all the time on her board. Okay. And the verse, because I read it every day I go down to get coffee and every day I read the verse, right? Because they're so uplifting and loving and they really make you think. So Friday and Monday, it was one verse. And this is Tuesday. And I go around the corner from getting my coffee. And this is the verse. And it's Philippians 4:19. And it says, and my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus. And I snapped a picture of it. But it said, remember, I woke up in fear. I was like, God, we can change our minds if we need to. If I read wrong, if I heard wrong, if I'm not doing the right things. And then she had to have put this verse up before she left. I leave work at 4:00. She had to have put this verse up after at least 2 p.m. on Monday. And it said, and my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus. I said, heard. That's what I heard. And I did a little skippity-doo on my way to my desk because you know what? God said he's going to meet all my needs and I don't have to worry. My God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above. You see what I'm saying? So I go back to my desk. I drink my little coffee, right? And then there is a lady there. She sits on the first row and she always has a verse on her board and I've always appreciated them. But I will say her approachability wasn't always there, right? I didn't feel like I could approach or she wanted anyone to approach. Anyway, I was like, nah, today's going to be the day. And I don't even know why today was the day, but God just laid it on my heart. So, I walked over there, and when I got to her desk, she was a little annoyed. I'm not going to lie. I felt it. I saw it. And I do annoy people because sometimes I'm a little too chipper. And I said, hey, this is my last day, like she cared. And I said, I want to tell you before I leave, I appreciated always your verses on your board because they were always so very direct. And I liked reading them because I would go home and read and just understand more. And she said, do you want a little Jesus? And it was this little small baby miniature Jesus. Yes, I want a baby Jesus. Yes, I want a pocket Jesus. And I got to pick my pocket Jesus. And then I couldn't shut up about my pocket Jesus. I went and told everyone about my pocket Jesus. And not just because, if you're not watching the video, you should really watch the video or look up a pocket Jesus because this thing is so cute. And sometimes I do keep it in my pocket and I do just remember because it says Jesus loves you. And sometimes I just need a reminder. So, I went and told everybody about Pocket Jesus. And I said, she's got a bunch of Jesuses up there. She wants you to take them. But again, I go back to sometimes people are unapproachable or they don't know how to be approachable. And so I went around and told everyone. And then I went by her desk again. And at her desk, but below the pocket Jesuses, it said, take one. She had now made herself approachable. She said, take one. Now, it was my last day there. I don't know if other people took one, but at least she made herself available for now conversation, fellowship, and to give away her pocket Jesuses. I love that so much. So I did a prayer, saw the verse, got me a pocket Jesus. And now it's time for my meeting. So I log on. I'm ready for this meeting. I'm ready for this to be the last meeting. And everybody says hello. It's 10 a.m. and poof, the lights went out in Georgia. Well, in Texas. The lights went out. The lights went out. I'm on this meeting, the lights go out, and we're like, what? And I even told a friend there, I prayed that Jesus would let me go home early. And she said, your prayer was answered. And I'm like, shh, I'm on a meeting. I'm so excited. I can barely contain myself. And finally, I just say, look, we can't finish this. Our lights went out. I don't know what's going on, but we got to conclude. Let's go. Bye. Have a nice day. See ya. And I'm like, what happened? And there's this lady going around saying, hey, and she's saying kind of what happened, but then she's telling us we're going to let these floors go home and work. So our system director said, okay, everybody grab your laptops and go home and work. And here's me. No, I'm not. No, I'm not going home to work. Because why? It's my last day. I'm not working no more. And he said, wait, what? And I'm like, because he's a busy man. He really is. He's got a lot going on. They had a very important things going on. And he's like, oh, wait. And I'm like, it's my last day. Everybody hugs. Let's go. Boo, boo, boo. And you're welcome. I prayed for this. You're welcome. I didn't specifically pray for the lights to go out. I did not do that. But I prayed to leave home, to go home early. And God said, not only are you going home early, but the other people are going home to work from home. And I'm like, thank you. Right? Because I want to share my blessings. I do. I want to share them. I have enough blessings for everybody. Right? Because God has enough blessings for me, and I have enough blessings for everybody. So I walk around, tell everyone bye, and say a few, you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome, right? Because now I'm just feeling the joy of God all over, right? And I'm leaving. I'm out. See ya. Have a nice day. I did go by the lady's desk who had the verse that helped me out to not be so fearful on my last day of work, and tell her what she did for me, because she was such a blessing. She didn't have to write those verses down. Not only that, she didn't have to listen to God to write that specific verse down to put my heart at ease so I could continue on my obedience journey, so that way I could be right here on this podcast to fulfill my purpose. So I was so appreciative of that. And I hope she understands what she did for me that day. So let me put a little pocket Jesus over here because I like to fidget with it. So everybody's leaving. I get on my little electric scooter, got my backpack. I think I'm going home and I'm going swimming. And I don't live very far from where I worked. And so as I'm coming down the road, I see Anisha pulling out. What a coinkydink, right? It's like 11:30, and I'm waving her down and I'm like, where are you going? She said, I'm going to go eat some breakfast. And I'm like, well, me too. She's like, wait, why are you out of work? I'm like, tell you the story. Let's get my scooter in the car and let's boat. Nisha wanted to go to this place that she always likes to go. I like it okay, but we're eating breakfast. I want some breakfast food. And so I'm like, let's go to this place I've been wanting to try. And she's like, cool, let's go. And so she's like, what happened? I'm like, I'll tell you when we get there, right? Because I'm an animated person. I'm a storyteller. I need to tell my story how I want to tell it. I need to be able to move, right? And in the car, I couldn't get that attention. So we get to this restaurant and we order, and I'm telling her the story. And man, we are having a great laugh about it. And then our food comes out, and we've gotten into the habit of praying for our food and for the people that prepared it. And so we hold hands, we're praying, and this older woman walks by and she's like, that was so beautiful. And I'm like, what? And she's like, that you guys pray together. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And she said, I've been going through some health issues, and I'm really nervous about them. I'm really scared about them. And I'm supposed to be getting my test results, but I still haven't gotten them. She said, so maybe the next time y'all sit down to pray, will you pray for me? And I said, well, ma'am, what's your name? And she said, my name is Vicky. And I'm like, okay, Miss Vicky. Held out my hands and I said, well, why don't we just pray for you right now? And if anyone knows Nisha, she has some issues with germs and things around and putting her hand on people that she doesn't know. And when I put my hands out and Miss Vicky put her hands in my hands, Nisha put her hand on Miss Vicky's shoulder. What? God is moving in this place, right? So I pray for Miss Vicky. I pray for her health. I pray for her results to come back exactly as they need to, right? And Miss Vicky said, thank you so much. And she walked on her way to go eat her breakfast. And I waited till she got out of earshot because I didn't want her to hear this part. And I'm like, did you see what just happened? And Nisha started to laugh and I started to laugh, and I said, oh my God, that a stranger asked us to pray for her. Us. These little hellions. She asked us to pray for her. If she would have known who we were back in the day, she probably would have made sure to walk a different way around about, not even getting near us. But a stranger asked these two sinners, rebellious folk, heathens, gays, to pray for her. And One, I was still supposed to be at work. Two, Nisha was going to a whole different restaurant. What is happening on this day? This day of obedience, this day of resignation, where I resigned my fear, where I resigned my fear of security and put it in God's hands. What is happening? Now it gets even better. We eat, and throughout our meal, we kept saying, hey, remember that time someone asked us to pray for them? Because we were in such awe and shock. It had been a while, and Miss Vicky comes back around, and I said, what's up, Miss Vicky? She came to our table, and she said, hey, listen, I just want to tell you guys before you left. I said, okay, what you want to tell us, Miss Vicky? And she said, I was sitting down eating, and my phone went off, and it was my email, and it was my test results. They're negative. My test results are negative. What? What did you say, Miss Vicky? I turned the lights out at work. I prayed for Miss Vicky. She got negative test results. Now listen, let's be honest. I know I didn't do all of this. Okay. But when you're new in your faith and you question things and you're unsure about how all this works, man, you walk around with your eyes wide open and you're like, I can't do all things through Christ. And that just resonates and goes and goes. And all day, when I woke up in a attitude of fear, right? And then all day, God was showing me by verses, by baby Jesus, by turning out the lights and letting me go home, by going to breakfast. And I love me some breakfast food. By going to breakfast, by staying obedient and praying, and Miss Vicky coming over and staying obedient. And you know what? Not worrying what anybody else in that restaurant thought. Because I'm sure people thought, what bunch of weirdos. Because I've done it. I've said it. I've been that person, right? By not worrying what the outs had to say, and we just doing it, just acting in faith. And then Miss Vicky coming over and saying, my results are negative. You couldn't tell me shit that day. You couldn't tell me anything. And from this day forward, you haven't been able to tell me anything. Because I know God is alive. God is alive. God is alive in you. God is alive in, whether you believe it or not, don't care. Don't care. Because I didn't believe it, and God was still alive in me. God is alive in you. God is alive in me. And every day he proves it, even in the ways that we don't even know. So, man, I was on a high all day long, all day. But then a person who has worked their whole life and who wasn't working before, right? But was using her whole day for alcohol and abuse, right? To herself, to her body. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had to struggle to find structure. I had to struggle to find what I was supposed to be doing. Fear on fear on fear on fear, right? And all I could do was pray, read the word, ask myself a lot of questions, and literally getting to know myself. I didn't even know what I liked because I had worried about everybody else and what everybody else was doing. I didn't even know what I liked, right? I had to relearn what I liked. And then I had to stay in very close contact with God. People say, well, how you just prayed a lot? No, I talked to God a lot. It is like any relationship. For those of you that don't know, when you have a real relationship with God, it is like any other. If you have a friendship, if you have a partnership, if your parents, your siblings, whatever, if you want to be close, you have to put in effort. You have to put in time, right? And so I had to put in effort. I had to put in time because God always puts in effort. God always puts in time. I mean, look what he did for me. He let me go home early. He let me help Miss Vicky. He gave me a great last day of work when I was dreading it, right? Because my worth has been in my work. But look at all he did for me. Now it was my turn to put in the work. It was my turn to put in the effort. And so we had to sit down and talk. I had to come with my fears, come with my doubts, come with everything because we're in a real relationship. So wherever you're at in your relationship with God, make sure you're spending the time, right? Because God wants that time with you. God rejoices in that time with you, even when you're a smart ass. Because I was a smart ass again. Hey, God, it's me, Carrie Jo. And then I would giggle, right? But then you know what I started hearing? Giggling, little whispers of giggle. Because God's a funny God and he likes humor. He likes jokes. He turned out the lights on my last day. He likes jokes. I want to say this is the end of my story, but it's not. This is the conclusion of the story up until this point in my life, right? I came here, little Carrie Jo. I had my little traumas. God took away my distractions. I developed my relationship with God. And God said, here's your podcast. You're a storyteller. You're a person that brings people together. And I want you to go out and do that because for your whole life, you have given. And even though your jobs have been great, you never enjoyed them. You never had fun. You had spurts of fun, right? But you never had fun. He said, so I'm going to give you fun. And I'm going to give you your purpose because your purpose is fun. Your purpose is enjoyable, right? So even in my fear, God led me to my purpose. And for this podcast, even if it helps one person, my purpose is fulfilled. It's fulfilled because I'm enjoying every second of this, even the scary parts, the parts I don't know, and there are a lot, even the fumbles, and we have fumbled, but we're getting better with every single episode. And I am seeing so much light. I appreciate each and every one of you listening, giving your support. You can find us on most podcast platforms. If you can't find us, just go to YouTube. You don't have to watch it. You can listen on YouTube. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. When you find us on YouTube, when you find us on Spotify, when you find us on all these platforms, if you like the stories or the stories have touched your heart, give us a thumbs up. Let us know what you think. You can type out a little message. Tell us what you think of our story, right? We want to hear. This is not just one-sided. I'm going to be on TikTok talking about little stories. I love the stories of the Bible and I like to tell them in my own way, where the way they resonate with me. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Go on these platforms. Tell me how my story connects to you. Thank you for joining this episode of Holy Chuckles Podcast, where we tell real stories, witness raw faith, experience holy laughter. Join us again next Wednesday for another episode. Remember, be kind, be loving, be Christ-like.